Got to take a break from the fish room build because I was on the phone with a good friend of mine the other day who happens to be a fish wholesaler. And I was talking to him about what it is that we're going to be doing. And he said, well, you want to come down here and see what it's like for us when we get a shipment of fish in and see our process and all that kind of stuff? And I said, yeah. So I am in Kernersville, North Carolina, the home of Carolina Aquatics, and I'm going to go over there while they receive a massive shipment from Bangkok, Thailand today. And then they're getting another one tomorrow morning, which is why I'm here in a hotel room, because I'm staying overnight. And then tomorrow I'm going to go back because they're going to receive another shipment. I think they're getting like 40 boxes of fish today. It's going to be thousands of fish. It's going to be really exciting. I can't wait to share that with you. The only thing is, it's really, really loud in their facility. So I think what I'm going to end up doing is just walking around with my phone, getting a bunch of footage, and then doing a voiceover over that to tell you exactly how they do things. So it should be fun. I'm excited about it. It is 9 o'clock at night right now, and I got to get back over there because their truck is going to be getting there any minute with all these fish. Now, the first thing that needs to be said is this is a fish wholesaler, not a fish store. And this is not a facility that allows the public to walk through it. The reason I bring that up is because you're going to see some things that they'd never be able to do if there were customers walking around the facility. I'm not talking about anything negligent or reckless. I'm talking about things like water all over the floor, bags of fish laid out all over the place, and people running around like the zombies are coming. With all that said, let's talk about the facility itself. Carolina Aquatics is a massive complex of buildings spread out kind of all over the place. The owner, Chris Klein, is one of the best business people I've ever met, and because of that, his company's been growing rapidly for quite some time. That growth has forced him to expand into other buildings for dry goods that are within like a mile of this building. When you walk through this building that houses all of the aquariums, you'll see one of those rubber barrier wall things that goes into one of their dry goods areas. I'm not sure what those barriers are called, but he's also got two other warehouses that are around 5,000 square feet each that house nothing but dry goods. His plan is to build a new building right next to this one that'll house the fish house, and I would imagine that would mean he'd consolidate all of the buildings into these two, the new one and this one, but the way his business is growing, who knows? When I met Chris back in 2020, he only had this building and he's added 10,000 square feet since then. So if he's going to keep going at that rate, he's going to need to be building something the size of a Home Depot. Anyway, this building houses their offices, about 2,500 square feet of dry goods, and this room with over 800 tanks in it. I forgot to ask Chris how many square feet this section is, but I'm going to guess it's somewhere around 10,000 square feet. The freshwater fish naturally make up about 60 to 70% of this space, and the rest is saltwater fish, corals, and a ton of koi. While I was here watching what they do on the freshwater side of things, there was also shipments coming in for saltwater, but well, who cares about that? I told you in the intro they were receiving about 40 boxes of fish from Thailand, and that's true, but what I didn't realize was they were also receiving a shipment from some Florida farms that they deal with too, and that showed up first, and that's when all hell broke loose. I don't mean that in a bad way. I actually mean it in a very good way, and as an observer, I learned real quick that Chris's staff has a job to do, and you better just get out of their way. This whole process is super impressive to watch. It starts with guys unloading these big boxes out of the truck and stacking them up in the center. Then someone comes along, starts cutting open all of the boxes, and that's when the real fun begins. I'm going to try to explain this process as clearly as I can, and hopefully when you see the footage, it'll all make sense. It's pretty simple at the end of the day. The live fish facility here at Carolina Aquatics is run by my other friend, Mike. He's the strapping young lad with the black ponytail, and let me just tell you, this is one of the most amazing human beings I've ever met. He's a super nice guy, yes, but he's also probably the biggest fish nerd on the planet, and I mean that as a compliment. I went to dinner with him and Chris before I went to check into the hotel, and to bring up fish to Mike is like bringing up Superman, darts, or how horrible the NFL is to me. He can talk about fish for hours, and he does it with a level of education and enthusiasm I don't know if I've ever seen in another person. Chris has absolutely made a great choice hiring this man. Anyway, to prepare the facility for new shipments, the staff spent the entire day moving fish around and cleaning out space. Mike monitors all of that, knows what fish are coming in, and determines where they'll go, and prints out little stickers to go on the tanks. The staff will pull all the bags out of the boxes and lay them all out in this center area of this facility, and Mike will be there with his roll of stickers, and an employee will grab 2 bags, hold them up for Mike. He'll determine what's in that bag, then find the sticker for that particular fish and stick it onto the employee's hand, because their hands are occupied by big old bags of fish. The sticker has what the fish are and the section, row, and tank numbers that they go into. The employee will then carry it over to the tank and in some cases lay the bag on the floor in front or float it in the tank. Why don't they float them all? Well, that's simple. There's some fish that are a little more sensitive than others, and being shipped halfway around the world in a bag with 100 other fish can be pretty stressful for them. For these fish, they drip acclimate them into the tanks. They drip acclimate them by putting the fish in a small tote and run a line from the tank to drip it in for a while before they put them into the tank. So if the bags are floating, the staff knows they can just put it straight in. And if they're on the floor, they know they need to be dripped. Simple. Speaking of putting them in the tanks, this is where I saw something that in my 15 years in this business, I've never seen. When you think about introducing fish into your aquarium, you think of the plop and drop method. You float the bag of fish for about 30 minutes so the temperature balances in the bag and so the fish don't get shocked. When you go to put them in, you pour the bag of fish through a net with the water going into either a bucket or a trash can, and you take that net and you drop the fish in. Well, imagine how long it would take to do that with all these huge bags of fish. We're talking about almost 70 boxes of fish when you combine the 2 shipments and 4 bags in each box. How many buckets or trash cans would you need to plop and drop 280 bags of fish? So instead, they do it like this. They literally just pour the bag through the net directly onto the floor. When I saw this for the first time, my hand went to my forehead and I thought, how have I never heard of this before? Well, the answer is I've never had a system like Chris does. There's a huge drain that I'm sure you've seen in the footage that runs all the way down the center of the facility. This is where they run hoses when they're doing water changes and where all the water goes when they're acclimating fish. So it's not like the water just sits there. That would be horrible. This is something I could watch all day long. In fact, let's just take a couple of minutes and watch Cody work his way down this whole row. When I start staffing my business, I pray I'll get an employee that hustles like Cody does. He is awesome. Well, all of the staff that Chris has is awesome, but Cody also plays darts, so I'm a little biased. Not long after the Florida shipment was put away, the Thailand shipment showed up, and the whole process started all over again. Laying out the bags, holding them up for Mike to identify and tell him where it goes, floating or dripping depending on the fish, and then putting them all in the tanks. And all of this footage was well after midnight. It was way past my bedtime, and it was exhausting just watching all these people run around like this. Okay, I am coming to you now. It's about 9:45 the next morning after the events of last night. And let me just tell you, that was absolute chaos. And I am so impressed with Chris's staff. They do an absolutely incredible job. If you were watching that footage, you saw they were running around like crazy people. I mean, they have this impeccable system in place where everybody knows what they need to do. Everybody knows where everything goes, and it was impressive to watch. I felt bad because I was just kind of standing around, observing, asking questions, and filming and doing all of that while everybody else was running around like chickens with their heads cut off. But it was very impressive to watch. I got in last night. It was like 1:30 when I got back to my hotel, and then my big butt didn't even wake up till 8:30 this morning. So had some breakfast, and now I'm headed back over there now. It's a nice rainy day here in Kernersville, but last night there was 2 shipments that came in. One was from one of their Florida suppliers, and then the second one was from Bangkok, Thailand. Today, I believe, is Colombia and Singapore. 2 shipments again coming in back to back from those 2 countries. So really, really good assortment of all different types of fish from all over the world. So it's really cool to see. I got to tell you, this has been one of the most amazing trips ever. Exhausting, even though I'm not the one doing the work. Overwhelming, but in a really, really good way. This is really exciting. So I need to stop running my mouth here and get my ass over there, because that shipment's supposed to show up around 10 o'clock, and it's almost that time now. So let's go. So I've got good news and bad news. The good news is the shipment from Colombia showed up when it was supposed to. The bad news is the shipment from Singapore did not. Well, it showed up eventually, but not until midnight again, and I wasn't staying for a second night. So unfortunately, I wasn't there for that one. The shipment from Colombia was a lot of the same as the night before, but not exactly. Everything they received from Colombia in this shipment was wild caught, so there was a lot more drip acclimation going on in this shipment than the last one. Now I gotta tell you, this trip was one of the most valuable experiences I've had in this business, especially when you consider I'm gonna be importing fish myself soon. Maybe not to this scale, but seeing how they do it, how they address each fish, and what they do if there's problems was some of the most valuable information I could ever get. Oh, by the way, on the topic of problems, there were very, very few. In fact, of the hundreds of bags over 3 shipments, there was really only 1 bag that Mike picked up and said, uh-oh. It goes to show that he knows the right places to buy from and which to avoid. I can't thank Chris, Mike, and the rest of the good folks over there at Carolina Aquatics for having me for those 2 days. This was an absolutely amazing trip. Exhausting, but amazing. If you're a fish store out there and you're interested in buying from them, check out their website, Carolina Aquatics. They are shipping nationally now, so just be aware of that. And if you're not a fish store, but you like what they're doing, they have a great YouTube channel all about aquarium products, fish, and everything else they sell. Mike is the master at fish profiles on their YouTube channel, and I've already told him I'll be ripping some of those videos off to use on my own website. Hey, man's got to eat. Anyway, back to the fish room build next week. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.